The transport shuttle touched down on Earth with a soft thud that Amanda Clark barely felt. She sat in the back row, her hands folded in her lap, watching through the small window as ground crews moved around the landing pad. 3 years. It had been 3 years since she last breathed Earth air. "Final stop, everyone out," called the pilot. Amanda waited until all the other passengers had left before she stood up. Her movements were careful and controlled, nothing like the excited bounce of the college students who had been talking loudly during the flight. At 19, Amanda moved like someone much older. She grabbed her single bag from the overhead compartment. Everything she owned fit in one military duffel bag. No photos, no souvenirs, just clothes and a few personal items that had survived the war. The bag felt light in her hands, but the weight of coming home felt much heavier. Jake was waiting for her at the arrival gate. Her little brother had grown taller while she was gone. He was 16 now, the same age she had been when she left for basic training. But he looked so young to her eyes, so soft around the edges. His face lit up when he saw her. "Amanda." Jake ran toward her, arms open for a hug. She let him embrace her, but her body stayed stiff. Hugs felt strange now. Touch meant danger in her world. It took effort to remind herself that Jake was safe, that this was safe. "You look different," Jake said, stepping back to study her face. "Older." "Yeah, well, that happens," Amanda replied. She tried to smile, but it felt fake on her face. Jake's expression changed slightly. He had expected his sister to come home. The same person who had left. Amanda could see the confusion in his eyes. The ride home was awkward. Jake filled the silence by talking about school, his friends, the new video games he was playing. Amanda listened but found it hard to care about things that seemed so small. While Jake worried about his chemistry test, she had been leading squads through combat zones, where the air could kill you if your suit got torn. Parents were waiting at home with a banner that read, "Welcome home, Amanda," stretched across the living room. Mom cried when she hugged her. Dad shook her hand like she was a soldier, which she was, but it felt wrong coming from her father. They had dinner together, but conversation was difficult. Her parents asked careful questions about her service, avoiding anything that might be too hard to talk about. "The school is excited to have you back," Mom said over dessert. "Principal Williams called yesterday. He said they have everything ready for you to finish your senior year." Amanda nodded. She had known this was coming. The Terran Defense Force required all early recruits to complete their high school education when they returned from service. It was supposed to help them readjust to civilian life. Amanda doubted it would work, but orders were orders. The next morning, Jake walked with her to Lincoln High School. The building looked smaller than she remembered. Everything looked smaller. Jake chatted nervously as they walked through the front doors. Students stared at Amanda as they passed through the hallways. Word had spread that a war veteran was coming back to finish school. Principal Williams met them at the main office. He was a thin man with kind eyes who clearly wanted to do the right thing. "Amanda, welcome back. We are so proud to have you here. I want you to know that we are going to treat you just like any other student. No special treatment, no different rules. We think that is what will be best for you." Amanda almost laughed. No special treatment. He had no idea what special treatment looked like. Special treatment was getting to sleep for 4 hours straight without someone waking you for guard duty. Special treatment was eating food that did not come from a tube. "Thank you, sir," she said instead. He handed her a class schedule and introduced her to Lisa Park, a senior who would be her student mentor. Lisa was cheerful and friendly, the kind of girl who probably had never had a bad day in her life. She talked constantly as she showed Amanda around the school. "So you were really in the war?" Lisa asked as they walked toward first period. "That must have been so exciting. I mean, scary too, but exciting." Exciting. Amanda thought about the Battle of Kepler Station, watching her squad leader die while acidic alien blood ate through his helmet. She thought about the screaming of wounded soldiers in the medical bay. She thought about the nights when she could not sleep because every sound might be an enemy trying to kill her. Yeah, Amanda said, exciting. Her first class was history with Mr. Peterson. He was explaining World War II battle tactics to a room full of teenagers who looked bored out of their minds. Amanda sat in the back corner, automatically choosing the seat that gave her the best view of all entrances and exits. Old habits. Mr. Peterson talked about tank movements and supply lines. Amanda found herself mentally checking the classroom for defensive positions, counting the number of students who could move quickly if they needed to evacuate. The windows were too small to be useful exits. The door was the only real way out, which made it a bottleneck if something went wrong. She realized she was doing it again. Tactical assessment. Combat thinking. This was a high school classroom, not a war zone. There were no enemies here, no threats to evaluate. But her mind kept working the way it had been trained to work. Danny Rodriguez raised his hand. Mr. Peterson, do we really need to watch this war movie for homework? It is so violent and unrealistic. I mean, nobody really fights like that. Amanda's jaw tightened. Unrealistic. This kid thought he knew what war looked like because he had seen movies. He had no idea what real violence was, what it sounded like when someone died for real, not for cameras. She stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. Every head in the classroom turned to look at her. Mr. Peterson stopped talking. Mid-sentence. I need to use the bathroom, Amanda said. Her voice came out harder than she intended. She walked out of the classroom and did not come back. Amanda spent the rest of the period sitting in the empty hallway, trying to calm down. She told herself that Danny was just a kid who did not know any better. Most people were lucky enough to not know any better. But it still made her angry in a way. That was hard to control. The guidance counselor found her there. Mrs. Helen Carter was a nice woman who probably meant well. She had kind eyes and spoke in a soft voice, like she was talking to someone who might break. Amanda, I think we should talk, Mrs. Carter said. I know coming back to school must be difficult. I want to help you adjust. Amanda wanted to tell her that some things could not be adjusted to. She wanted to explain that you could not just turn off 3 years of war and pretend to be a normal teenager again. But Mrs. Carter would not understand. How could she? She lived in a world where the biggest crisis was a student having trouble with math homework. I'm fine, Amanda said. Just need some time to get used to things. Mrs. Carter scheduled mandatory counseling sessions twice a week. Amanda knew she would go and say what was expected of her. She would play the part of the recovering soldier, learning to be a civilian again. But inside, she would be counting the days until graduation, when she could decide what to do with the rest of her life. The problem was that Amanda did not know who she was supposed to be now. For 3 years, she had been Lieutenant Clark, squad leader, someone people depended on to make life and death decisions. Now she was supposed to be just another high school student, worried about prom and college applications. But the war had changed her in ways that could not be unchanged. She had seen too much, knew too much, carried too much responsibility for too long. High school felt like playing pretend, and Amanda had forgotten how to pretend. As she walked home that afternoon, Amanda wondered if coming back had been a mistake. Maybe some people were not meant to go back to the world they had left behind. Maybe some people were shaped by war in ways that made peace feel like the foreign country. But orders were orders, and Amanda Clark always followed orders, even when those orders meant pretending to be someone she was not sure she could be anymore. 3 weeks had passed since Amanda started back at Lincoln High School. She had fallen into a routine of sorts. Wake up, go to classes, sit in the back, say nothing, go home. The other students had stopped staring at her so much. The teachers had stopped trying to include her in discussions. Everyone seemed happy to pretend she was just another student. Amanda was eating lunch alone in the cafeteria when everything changed. She had chosen the table in the corner where she could watch the whole room. Old habits died hard. Lisa Park had tried to get her to sit with her friends, but Amanda preferred to eat alone. It was quieter that way. The emergency broadcast system crackled to life at exactly 12:15. The sound was so loud that conversation stopped all across the cafeteria. Amanda looked up from her sandwich, already knowing that something was very wrong. Emergency broadcasts during school hours only happened for real emergencies. Principal William's voice came through the speakers, but it was shaking in a way that made Amanda's stomach tighten. She had heard that kind of fear before, in the voices of officers who had to deliver bad news to their troops. "Students and staff, please remain calm," Principal William said, but his voice was anything but calm. "We have received word that alien scout ships have been detected in our solar system. The Terran Defense Force is mobilizing to meet this threat. All civilians are to remain calm and follow evacuation procedures." The cafeteria exploded into chaos. Students screamed, jumped up from their tables, and ran in every direction at once. Girls cried, boys shouted, and everyone seemed to be moving without thinking. Amanda watched the panic spread like wildfire through the room. She had seen this before on colony worlds when the Zorathi attacked. The moment when people realized their safe world was not safe anymore. The moment when everything they thought they knew about their lives suddenly meant nothing. A freshman girl fell down as bigger students pushed past her. Nobody stopped to help her up. She curled up on the floor and covered her head with her hands. Two boys got into a fight over nothing, just because they were scared and did not know what else to do. Amanda stood up slowly and looked around the room. This was exactly what she had expected. These kids had never faced real danger before. They had no idea how to handle it. Their panic was making everything worse. Coach Murphy, the only staff member who had military training, was trying to get students to follow the evacuation plan. But nobody was listening to him. His voice was lost in the screaming and crying. Students were pushing toward the exits, creating dangerous bottlenecks where people could get crushed. Amanda climbed onto her lunch table. The height gave her a view of the entire cafeteria. She took a deep breath and let out the command voice she had learned in the war. It was the voice that had once made grown soldiers stop what they were doing and listen. Everyone stopped moving. Right now, the cafeteria went silent. Every face turned toward her. Even the crying stopped. Amanda had their attention, but she knew she only had a few seconds before the panic started again. "My name is Amanda Clark. I am a veteran of the Zorathi War. I know what I am doing. If you want to get out of here alive, you will do exactly what I tell you to do." She pointed to different sections of the cafeteria. You, and you," she said, picking out the students who looked most calm. "You are group leaders now. Take 10 people each and form lines by that wall." The students she had chosen looked surprised but moved to follow her orders. Something in Amanda's voice made them want to obey. Other students began to form lines behind them. "Everyone else, find a group and get in line. No pushing, no running, no talking. We are going to move out of here in an orderly fashion." Amanda jumped down from the table and began organizing the evacuation like she had done it 100 times before, because she had. She divided the students into manageable groups, assigned the calmest ones to help the scared ones, and established clear paths to the exits. Group 1, move to the south exit. Group 2, north exit. Group 3, wait for my signal. Her voice carried across the room, calm and sure. Students who had been panicking moments before now moved with purpose. Coach Murphy came over to her. "Amanda, thank God. These kids don't know what to do." "They do now," Amanda said. She was in her element for the first time since coming back to school. This was what she was good at. This was what she had trained for. But while she organized the evacuation, Amanda was also listening to something else. Her modified cum device was picking up military chatter, and what she heard made her blood run cold. The official announcement had been carefully worded to avoid panic, but the truth was much worse. The Zorathi were not just sending scout ships. They were sending a full invasion fleet. 3 dreadnoughts, 47 escort vessels, and enough firepower to crack Earth like an egg. The orbital defense platforms were already engaging the enemy, but they were outgunned and outnumbered. Amanda pulled out her cum device and tuned it to the military frequencies she knew by heart. The voices she heard confirmed her worst fears. Earth's main fleet was scattered across 12 different sectors. The home defense force was made up mostly of older ships and inexperienced crews. The planet had maybe 6 hours before the Zorathi planet killers arrived. "Amanda, what are you doing?" Lisa Park had appeared at her side. The other girl looked scared, but was trying to help manage the evacuation. "Listening to the real news," Amanda said grimly. "The situation is worse than they are telling people." "How?" "Much worse." Amanda looked at her for a long moment. Lisa was just a normal teenager who had never seen war. But she deserved to know the truth. Bad enough that we might not have a planet to evacuate to. The cafeteria was almost empty now. Amanda's organized evacuation had moved over 200 students to safety in less than 10 minutes. But she knew it might not matter. If the Zorathi cracked Earth's crust, underground shelters would not save anyone. She made a decision that went against every regulation she knew. Amanda accessed the school's main communication array and began trying to contact her old unit. She needed to talk to someone who understood what they were really facing. The signal took a few minutes to connect, but finally a familiar voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Captain Torres, 4th Fleet Command. Who is this?" "Torres. This is Lieutenant Clark. I need a status report on the Zorathi incursion." There was a pause. "Clark? Amanda Clark? What are you doing on an open channel?" "I'm on Earth, Ben. I'm at a civilian facility, and I need to know how bad this really is." Another pause, longer. This time, "It's bad, Amanda. Really bad. We have maybe 2 hours before the dreadnoughts reach orbital bombardment range. The defense platforms are falling back, and we don't have enough ships to stop them." Amanda closed her eyes. 2 hours, not 6. The public announcements were lies meant to prevent panic. But panic might be the least of their problems if the Zorathi succeeded. "Ben, there might be something we can do. Remember the Battle of Kepler Station? The shield frequency weakness we discovered?" "Yeah, but Amanda, you're on the ground. You can't help us from down there." Amanda looked around the now empty cafeteria. Through the windows, she could see students and teachers moving toward the underground shelters. They were following evacuation procedures designed for atmospheric attacks or ground invasions. But the Zorathi were not planning to invade Earth. They were planning to destroy it completely. "Ben, I might have an idea. But I need you to trust me." "Amanda, whatever you're thinking, don't do it. You're a civilian now. This is not your fight anymore." But Amanda was not listening. She was already moving toward the school's STEM building, where she remembered seeing something that might change everything. The war had taught her many things, but the most important lesson was this: sometimes the impossible was the only option. Left behind her, Lisa Park followed, not understanding what was happening, but knowing that Amanda was the only person in the school who seemed to have any idea what to do. The real battle for Earth was about to begin, and it would be fought by a 19-year-old girl who had never learned how to give up. Amanda ran through the empty hallways toward the STEM building with Lisa close behind her. Her combat boots echoed off the walls as she moved with the quick, controlled pace of someone who knew exactly where she was going. Lisa struggled to keep up, her sneakers slipping on the polished floor. "Amanda, where are we going?" Lisa called out, breathing hard. "To save the world," Amanda replied without slowing down. It sounded crazy when she said it out loud, but it was the truth. She had seen the tactical displays, heard the radio chatter, knew the numbers. Earth had less than 2 hours before the Zorathi dreadnoughts moved into bombardment position. They reached the STEM building, and Amanda headed straight for the Advanced Communications Lab. The room was filled with equipment that the school used to teach students about space communication and satellite technology. But Amanda saw it differently. She saw a way to coordinate with the fleet that was trying to defend Earth. Amanda began connecting cables and adjusting frequencies with the skill of someone who had done this before, under much worse conditions. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panels, bringing systems online that most of the teachers did not even know how to use. "This is insane," Lisa said, watching Amanda work. "You're just a student. You can't run military operations from a high school." Amanda looked at her with eyes that had seen too much war. "Lisa, I spent 3 years coordinating fleet movements during the worst fighting this galaxy has ever seen. I know these systems better than most of the people using them." The communication array crackled to life, and Captain Torres' voice came through clearly. "Amanda, I hope you know what you're doing. We just lost 2 more defense platforms. The Zorathi are moving faster than we expected. How much time do we have?" Amanda asked as she fine-tuned the signal. 90 minutes, maybe less. Their lead ships are already in firing range of the outer stations. Amanda pulled up a holographic display that showed the positions of all the ships in the system. The Zorathi fleet was spread out in a classic attack formation, with the 3 dreadnoughts protected by smaller escort vessels. The human fleet was scattered and outnumbered, but Amanda could see something that the other commanders might miss. The Zorathi were using the same formation they had used at Kepler Station, and Amanda knew exactly how to beat it. "Ben, listen to me carefully. The shield frequency vulnerability we discovered at Kepler Station. Do you still have the technical data?" "Yes, but Amanda, we would need someone who understands both human and Zorathi technology to make it work. Someone who could coordinate the attack in real time. You have someone. Me." There was silence on the other end of the communication. Then Torres spoke again, his voice tight with worry. "Amanda, you're on the ground. We would need you up here to make this work." Before Amanda could respond, the lab door burst open. Principal Williams stormed in, followed by Coach Murphy, Mrs. Carter, and 3 other teachers. They all looked angry and scared at the same time. "Amanda, what are you doing?" Principal Williams demanded. "You cannot use school equipment for unauthorized communications. This is completely inappropriate." Amanda turned to face them, her hand still working the controls behind her. "Sir, I am coordinating the defense of Earth. Unless you want to be vaporized in the next hour, I suggest you let me work." "You are not coordinating anything," Mrs. Carter said in her soft counselor voice. "You are having a trauma response. This is not real, Amanda. You are imagining threats that do not exist." Amanda stared at her in disbelief. "Not real, Lisa, show them the news feeds." Lisa had been monitoring the public broadcasts on her phone. The official reports were still trying to keep people calm, but the truth was starting to leak out. She held up her phone so everyone could see the screen. "The orbital defense platforms are under heavy attack," the news reporter was saying. "Military sources confirm that the alien fleet is larger than initially reported. Civilian evacuation procedures are now in effect for all major population centers." Coach Murphy, who had served in the military years ago, looked at the tactical display Amanda had brought up. His face went pale as he realized what he was seeing. "Those are real fleet positions," he said quietly. "Amanda, how do you have access to military tactical data?" "Because I am still a lieutenant in the Terran Defense Force," Amanda said. I am on educational leave, not discharged. And right now, I am the only person on this planet who knows how to stop those ships." Principal Williams shook his head. "This is absurd. You are 19 years old. You cannot possibly be running military operations." The communication array crackled again. "Amanda, we just lost the USS Liberty. The Zorathi are breaking through our outer perimeter. If you have a plan, we need it now." Amanda turned back to the controls, ignoring the adults behind her. She began transmitting targeting data to the human fleet, using her knowledge of Zorathi. Ship designed to identify weak points in their formation. Group 7, adjust your approach vector by 15 degrees. Target the escort vessel on the port side of the second dreadnought. Its shield generators are mounted externally. "Confirmed. Group 7 adjusting course," came the reply. Coach Murphy stepped closer to the display. "Amanda, what exactly are you doing?" "The Zorathi ships have a weakness in their shield harmonics," Amanda explained as she worked. "If we can hit them with coordinated attacks at the right frequency, their shields will collapse. But it requires precise timing and someone who understands their technology." "And you understand their technology?" "I spent 6 months on a captured Zorathi vessel, learning how their systems work. I know their ships better than they think I do." Mrs. Carter was still trying to convince everyone that Amanda was having a breakdown. "This is clearly a fantasy brought on by post-traumatic stress. We need to get her away from this equipment before she hurts herself." "Ma'am," Lisa said, speaking up for the first time, "I have been monitoring the military communications. Everything Amanda is saying matches what the fleet commanders are reporting. This is really happening." Security guard Pete Collins appeared in the doorway. He was a former Marine who had served 2 tours before taking the school job. He had been listening to military radio chatter on his personal equipment. "The girl is right," Pete said grimly. "I have been monitoring the emergency frequencies. The situation is exactly what she says it is. Earth has maybe an hour before those alien ships start bombardment." Principal Williams looked around at all the faces staring at him. He was a school administrator who had never faced anything more dangerous than a budget meeting. But he could see the fear in everyone's eyes, could hear the desperation in the voices coming through Amanda's communication. "System, what do you need?" he asked Amanda. "I need to get to that old emergency shuttle in the STEM hangar," Amanda said. "The one you keep for the space program display. That shuttle has not flown in 10 years. It is just for show. It is still flight capable. I checked the maintenance records. And I still have my pilot certification." The room went silent. Everyone understood what Amanda was saying. She wanted to steal a school shuttle and fly into a space battle. "Amanda, no," Lisa said. "That is suicide." "Maybe," Amanda replied. "But if I do not try, everyone on this planet dies. The choice is pretty simple." Principal Williams made the hardest decision of his life. He looked at Amanda, this 19-year-old girl who carried herself like a soldier, and realized that she might be Earth's only hope. "Do it," he said. Amanda smiled for the first time since coming back to school. It was not a happy smile, but it was real. "Thank you, sir." She began shutting down the communication array and preparing to move to the hangar. In 30 minutes, she would either save the world or die trying. But for the first time in 3 weeks, Amanda felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Amanda ran through the hallways toward the STEM hangar with Lisa right behind her. The old emergency shuttle sat in the corner of the building like a forgotten piece of history. It was small and outdated, but Amanda had studied its specifications. During her first week back at school, the engines were still good, the life support systems worked, and most importantly, it could reach orbit. She began the pre-flight sequence from memory while Lisa watched nervously from the side. Amanda's hands moved across the control panels with the confidence of someone who had flown much more dangerous missions in much worse conditions. "Amanda, this is crazy," Lisa said. "That shuttle is ancient. How do you know it will even fly?" "Because I ran a full diagnostic 3 days ago," Amanda replied as she powered up the main engines. "I always have backup plans." The hangar doors began to open slowly, letting in the afternoon sunlight. Through the opening, Amanda could see the sky above them, where the real battle was happening. Bright flashes of light marked the places where human and alien ships were destroying each other in the darkness of space. Principal Williams, Coach Murphy, Mrs. Carter, and Pete Collins entered the hangar just as Amanda finished the startup sequence. They all looked worried and scared, but there was also something else in their faces. Hope maybe, or desperation. "Amanda, wait," Principal Williams said. "There has to be another way. We cannot send a student into a war zone." Amanda looked at him through the shuttle's window. "Sir, I am not just a student. I am a lieutenant in the Terran Defense Force, and I have a job to do." "But you could die," Mrs. Carter said, tears in her eyes. "Ma'am, people are already dying up there. Good people who are trying to protect Earth. If I can help them, then that is what I have to do." Lisa suddenly spoke up. "I am going with you." Everyone turned to stare at her. Lisa Park, the cheerful student mentor who had never been in danger, in her whole life, was volunteering to fly into a space battle. "Lisa, no," Amanda said firmly. "This is not your fight." "Yes, it is," Lisa replied, climbing into the shuttle's co-pilot seat. "You need someone to handle communications while you fly. I have been watching you work all day. I know what to do." Amanda wanted to argue, but she could see the determination in Lisa's eyes. Besides, she was right. Amanda would need help coordinating with the fleet while piloting the shuttle. "Fine, but you do exactly what I tell you when I tell you. No questions, no hesitation." "Understood." Coach Murphy stepped forward. "Amanda, I served in the military for 8 years. What are your real chances up there?" Amanda was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, we probably will not make it back. But if we do nothing, everyone on Earth dies. So the odds do not really matter." Pete Collins saluted her. "Good luck, Lieutenant." Amanda returned the salute, then sealed the shuttle's hatch. The engines roared to life, and the small craft lifted off from the hangar floor. Through the windows, she could see the teachers and Principal Williams watching them go. They looked small and helpless on the ground below. The flight to orbit took 12 minutes. As they climbed higher, Amanda could see the battle unfolding around Earth. The orbital defense platforms were burning wrecks, their debris scattered across space. Human ships darted between the massive Zorathi vessels like insects attacking giants. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered, staring at the tactical display. "There are so many of them." Amanda activated the communication system and contacted Captain Torres. "Ben, this is Amanda. I am in position and ready to coordinate the attack." "Amanda, what are you flying?" "Our sensors show a civilian craft. Borrowed a school shuttle. Lisa Park is with me handling communications. Are you ready to try the harmonic attack?" There was a pause. "Amanda, we have lost 6 more ships since you left. We are down to 8 vessels against 47 Zorathi ships. Even if your plan works, we might not have enough firepower left." Amanda studied the tactical display. The human fleet was scattered and badly damaged. But she could see something that gave her hope. The Zorathi had moved into their standard bombardment formation, grouping their dreadnoughts close together for maximum firepower against planetary targets. "Ben, they are making the same mistake they made at Kepler Station. They have grouped their command ships too close together. If we can collapse the shields on the lead dreadnought, the harmonic feedback will affect the other two." "That is a big if, Amanda. Trust me, I know these ships." Amanda began transmitting targeting data to the human fleet. She identified the specific points on the Zorathi vessels where their shield generators were most vulnerable. Lisa helped by coordinating communications with individual ship commanders, relaying Amanda's instructions with surprising skill. All ships, this is Lieutenant Clark. Begin attack run on my mark. Target the lead dreadnought's port shield array. Frequency modulation at 7.4 MHz. The human ships moved into position, their damaged hulls gleaming in the light of Earth's sun. Amanda watched the display as they prepared for what might be their final attack. Mark! 18 human ships opened fire at the same instant, their weapons all targeted on the same small section of the Zorathi dreadnought's shields. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien ship's shields began to flicker. It is working! Lisa shouted. The shields on the lead dreadnought collapsed completely, leaving the massive ship vulnerable. But more importantly, the harmonic feedback began spreading to the other Zorathi vessels. Their shields started fluctuating as the resonance frequency disrupted their power systems. All ships, concentrate fire on the unshielded targets. Amanda commanded. The tide of battle turned in less than 5 minutes. Without their shields, the Zorathi dreadnoughts were helpless against human weapons. The smaller escort vessels tried to protect them, but they were outnumbered now. One by one, the alien ships were destroyed or driven back. Amanda's shuttle took a hit from a dying Zorathi fighter, and alarms began screaming throughout the cabin. The hull breach was small, but the life support system was failing. They had maybe 10 minutes of air left. Amanda, we need to get back to Earth, Lisa said, trying to keep the fear out of her voice. Working on it, Amanda replied, fighting to control the damaged shuttle. The engines were running rough, and the navigation system was offline. She would have to fly by sight and hope they could reach Luna Base before their air ran out. The landing was rough. Amanda managed to crash the shuttle onto Luna Base's emergency landing pad, but the impact knocked both girls unconscious. When Amanda woke up in the medical bay 3 days later, the first thing she saw was Lisa sitting beside her bed with her arm in a sling. We won, Lisa said, smiling. The Zorathi fleet retreated. Earth is safe. Amanda nodded slowly. Her body hurt, but she was alive. More importantly, Earth was still there. How many ships did we lose? 11. But without your plan, we would have lost everything. 2 weeks later, Amanda was back at Lincoln High School, walking with a slight limp from her injuries. The media had called her the schoolgirl savior, which made her uncomfortable. She was not a hero. She was just someone who had done what needed to be done. Principal Williams offered to let her finish school through independent study, away from the reporters and curious students, but Amanda chose to stay. She attended classes, ate lunch in the cafeteria, and tried to be a normal senior. But she also started an after-school program, teaching emergency preparedness and basic tactical thinking. Because Amanda had learned the most important lesson of all: the universe was dangerous, but humans were dangerous too. And sometimes, being dangerous was the most human thing you could do. On graduation day, Amanda gave a speech about responsibility, about the moment when you realize the safe world you grew up in was never really safe, and what you choose to do when that illusion breaks. War had shaped her, but it had not broken her. It had shown her what she was capable of when everything she cared about was on the line. High school never stood a chance against someone who had learned that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when they had to. In the end, that was what being human really meant.